Listening to the Week 12 review, I've noticed one discussion point is missing when you're talking about the Jets. Nathaniel Hackett. You guys are talking about how bad the offensive line is playing and grading what a train wreck Zach Wilson is, but I think you're missing one important point. The Broncos looked like that last year. Russell Wilson looked like maybe the worst quarterback in the league, and the offensive line was a penalty-fueled mess. The execution was sloppy and the clock management was horrendous. Watching the Black Friday game of the Jets, I saw all these issues pop up for the Jets. With the 49ers, you've talked about, even in the grades, good coaching can show up to a degree. So seeing the parallels between last year's Broncos and this year's Jets, my question is, how much of the Jets' problems have their root cause in their offensive coordinator? Is making it fun, quote unquote, what Rodgers said about Hackett, enough in the NFL? And will Hackett, because of the bond to Rodgers, survive, by this point, a seemingly inevitable house cleaning at the end of the season?
I think it's a very fair point. Hackett was hired for Aaron Rodgers.
For vibes.
Because we do a lot of this, right? Like,
somebody, by the way, did take me up on the challenge. Like I had said, I had never seen a single piece of video evidence that suggested Hackett actually had any coaching acumen whatsoever. There's a video out there that somebody emailed us in, I think, that was like him walking through a play on an iPad type of thing, where it was all, it was all X's and O's and buzzwords and, buzz this and all that kind of stuff, right? Like, performatively so, some might say. But anyway, he did demonstrate that there is coaching acumen in there as well. But evidently, the evidence of him on the field doesn't stack up well recently.
Yeah, I mean, so we do a lot of without analysis. I think when you have elite quarterbacks, that skews that. Obviously, We're dealing with this with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick and Bill O'Brien and Josh McDaniels. Like, all of these guys look worse without Tom Brady.
Right.
And so when you look at Nathaniel Hackett's career, his best seasons being involved in either coaching quarterbacks or offensive coordinator. They're 2020 and 21 when Aaron Rodgers won the MVP. So there's nothing else in Hackett's career that says, sure, you give him any quarterback, he'll make him better. Whereas, of course, when you look at Shanahan, you would say almost every quarterback he's gotten has performed above and beyond. So Hackett coached Blake Bortles in Jacksonville as QB's coach in 15 and 16. Before that, he was offensive coordinator with the Bills. They weren't great offensively in 13 or 14 when he was there. He called plays for the Jags in 16 to 18. They did have the AFC Championship run there, but it wasn't because of Bortles. It was because of their defense. He goes to Green Bay. He's there in 19 to 21. He's got those. They won a lot of games there, but there was 2 elite years offensively for the Packers. Rodgers played out of his mind, right? And then last year, the disaster with the Broncos. So the 2 good years you highlight there, the 2 years that Rodgers wins MVP, was great. And if Rodgers was playing this year, he maybe would have been fine because he's got this rapport with Nathaniel Hackett. But yeah, once Rodgers is out of the equation, yeah, there's nothing else that says, yeah, of course, Nathaniel Hackett's going to elevate this Jets offense and overcome the offensive line and make Zach Wilson better or make Tim Boyle better. So yeah, I think it's a fair assessment that maybe he's part of the problem here. I think when you look at the Jets' issues, though, for this season, it's just like they put all their eggs into the Aaron Rodgers basket.
Yeah.
And he got hurt after 4 plays. Like, what should you expect? Somebody brought up the point, I'll bring up the point. Kyle Shanahan didn't have his starting quarterback for 50% of his games through 5 years with the 49ers. That's why they tried to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think it was performance-based. I think it was injury-based. It's like, I don't want to have C.J. Beathard and Nick Mullins playing quarterback anymore. I want the guy that I picked. And Shanahan had bad seasons when he didn't have his quarterback. But he wasn't a bad coach. He just had to deal with his backup for those seasons. When he had his quarterback, they went to NFC championships every single season. So you might be able to say the same thing about Robert Saleh. Now, you might say, oh, they didn't do enough, the deadline, blah, 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 whatever. Like, it was a lost season all the way through for the Jets. If they brought Josh Dobbs in and won a couple more games, who cares? Does that actually matter? They put all their eggs into the Aaron Rodgers basket. He got hurt, and now it's like on to 2024 if you're the Jets, and hope that Rodgers is healthy and ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, this world we're in now, where there is a massive spectrum of the impact that coaching has. There's always this debate, right? How important is coaching? How important is supporting cast? The credit pie, right? How big is each slice? And for quarterbacks, how important is it to have a great supporting cast? And you can even subdivide that. Pass protection, receiving help, and then scheme. So we're now, I think, getting even higher levels of like coaching can make a huge difference. Look what it's doing in San Francisco, in Miami, in Houston. And sure, particularly in Miami and San Francisco, you can point to that and say, well, the supporting cast is great as well, right? You go and get Tyreek Hill at the same time as you get Mike McDaniel. For the 49ers, you've got just this array of guys, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Trent Williams as well, if you want to fold him into it. There's so many weapons. So it's always a muddy picture. But clearly, those guys are making a material impact to how everybody performs, including things like the offensive line. And I suspect the opposite is true, where when you have a coach that is not doing anything, essentially, to offset weaknesses, it looks even worse. And this is part of why Frank Reich got his job fired, terminated, right, is because they looked at that and said, he's doing nothing to help this situation, right? All they've done is like giving up play calling duties, taking them back, right? They're not actually fundamentally changing anything in the scheme to the point where I didn't see where this report came from, but there was a report that came out that said that the Panthers front office had come to Reich and said, hey, let's install a bunch of RPOs because Bryce Young's familiar with that in college and it would help him out and, help us here. Like, let's throw the guy a lifeline, he's drowning here. And Reich was like, no, my offense doesn't do RPOs. We're not doing that. Basically just brushed him off, said no, right? Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know, whatever. But it kind of tallies with the rest of what we're seeing in Frank Reich's offense, which is, he doesn't do any of the new motion stuff that everybody's doing. He doesn't run RPOs. He doesn't he lives in 11 personnel, nothing else. He's not doing any of the other things schematically in terms of variance and misdirection and trickery, like anything that might try and help, from a schematic point of view. And I kind of get looking at that and saying, I mean, dude, it's going badly here. Why are we not changing anything? So if that's the end of the scale that some of these coaches live by, Nathaniel Hackett being there probably makes it worse, right? And sure, we look at this and say, well, the offensive line would have been terrible even with Rodgers in there. And would he still be upright and functioning even if he hadn't popped his Achilles after 5 snaps? I mean, the other thing is, how much could he have offset Nathaniel Hackett maybe not making it? Like, you see those clips of him on the sideline, like listening to the call and being like, this is a terrible call, right? How much would he have just ignored it on the field and run whatever the hell he wanted to run himself?